It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So hype right now. Anything's possible. Oh, my mama. Oh, my lady, ma. Anything's possible.
Yeah. Rain and Jay's back with the vengeance. All the real Celtics fans in attendance. This the truth like 34. This like walking in the garden when you hear the roars. The crowd goes crazy. Most in-depth coverage on the daily. Mainly podcast royalty, the content kings. When you talking about the franchise with 17 rings. Focus like Danny at the deadline. Global with it, got a local feel like the red line, the blue line, the green line. Play it in between time. I'ma throw my C's jersey on in the meantime and press play. When the F's done, I can't wait until the next day. Trying to stay in tune with the C's, that's the best way. Melly.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine, whether you're listening to the show on a podcast, whatever you're doing, and or watching the show on YouTube. I want to thank you for including me, John Karalis, as part of your Celtics experience. I cover the team for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars. I'm holding it up on the YouTube page. You can buy it on my website for $30, a signed copy, or just buy it wherever you buy books. Today, 3 segments for you. First, the Celtics win 107-82, beat the Denver Nuggets. I'm going to talk about the Summer League game. Secondly, Dennis Schroeder officially signed. I'm going to talk about that in the second segment. And in the third segment, Ime Udoka spoke at the Summer League halftime. So we'll share some of what he said, especially about Marcus Smart. So let's start with this game. I'll get to Schroeder in a minute. Let's start with this game here. The Celtics beating the Denver Nuggets. They came out, they got hot. They shot 15 of 32 from 3. They put up 107 points in a 40-minute game. So things were going very well for them. So my standout guys in this game, you got to start with Aaron Nesmith. 13 of 18 shooting, 7 of 9 from 3, 7 rebounds, a couple of assists, 33 points overall for Aaron Nesmith. Now, this puts to rest any of the concerns that people might have had from his 1 of 8 shooting night to start. So, hey, 1 of 8, add that to 7 of 9. So 8 of 17. Hey, he's almost shooting 50% on 3-pointers. Amazing what the bigger sample size will do. I asked Aaron Nesmith after the game if he was working on any particular kind of shots. And he said, yes, I actually am. I'm looking for some shots that are contested. He is actually looking for contested shots. He is looking for quick shots. He's looking for off of the dribble shots. I think 2 of his most impressive shots in this game actually came on the baseline where he put the ball on the deck a little bit, decked it, went, drove, shot. Like one of them was from behind the backboard. Those are the kind of shots that he's looking for because those are the shots that he's going to end up getting in an actual game. It's really nice to see Aaron Nesmith kind of getting the message. Compliment Tatum, compliment Brown. You're going to get the minutes. So guys are going to close out hard on him. He knows that. He's going to be able to shoot against a contested closeout, an aggressive closeout, drive against a contested closeout, and then find a way to score as the defense is rotating behind that. He did a lot of that in this game, which is nice. It's a good sign. It's one of those things we talk about translatable skills, things that go from summer league to the NBA. How can you take that, what you're working on here, and go to the NBA with it and have it work? Because we know that some of the stuff is not translatable. So let's see how this progresses. I'm not going to overreact to the ball going in, just like I didn't overreact to the ball not going in the last one. If you remember, after the last post game, I kind of said the same thing, that I think that that Neesmith is working on some of those shots. Turns out that he was, and so good to see them fall. As long as he's starting to figure out that whole progression of, this is how I'm going to see the ball. This is how I'm going to catch the ball. This is how I'm going to have to react to it. That's good. So good from Aaron Nesmith. Not even about the 33 points. It's more the types of shots that he took and made. Payton Pritchard, big game from him. 21 points, 12 assists, 8 rebounds. 2 rebounds shy of a summer league triple-double. The big thing for Pritchard here, much more of a distributor than in game one. In game one, he took 15 three-pointers. Over here, he took 5. Now, he hit 4 of them, so he's really shooting the hell out of the ball. But 6 of 10 shooting overall, 5 of 5 from the line, like really shooting the ball really well. This time, he was more of a distributor. I asked Joe Mazzulla, the Celtics assistant, who was the head coach of the summer league team, was this a stated thing? What were you and Payton Pritchard kind of working on? Okay, you worked on extending your shot. Now let's work on the distribution. He said, no, there wasn't a stated goal, but what we talked about was controlling the game, controlling the teammates, making sure that they got the ball where they wanted it, where they want to get the ball, where they need to get the ball, making sure that you're really running the offense. And then you give the game what it needs. In this game, he gave it what it needs. And it was 12 assists. Now, it helps that guys made shots, right? Assists are very dependent on the ball going in. So that you can't just look at 12 assists and say, oh, he was a distributor. Like, obviously, you don't distribute and not get 12 assists. But point is, I'm trying to let you know that the ball going in doesn't necessarily impact whether this player has a good game or not. It's very important. What was Pritchard doing? He was finding guys in their spots, giving them opportunities to score. That is more important than whether those shots went in and got him the assist. They did, so it's very easy to look at the box score and say, there it is. He distributed. But he did do it in a way that controlled the game, and then the guys were able to hit shots. It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship. You need the shots to fall to get the assist. You need the good assist to give you a better chance to get the shot to fall. So Pritchard, Neesmith, both really, really good in this game. Bruno Fernando was pretty good in this game. Only played 15 minutes. Celtics big man that they got in that trade. They got him from Atlanta. He 4 of 5, 9 points, couple of rebounds, couple of assists. I'll talk about one of those assists in a second. But he looked good in limited time. Now, harder to tell with the big guy because he looks stronger than most of the guys out there. He had a very impressive drive, a catch at the top of the key, drive left, get to the rim, finish with the contact, got an and one. That was really impressive. Didn't really know a lot about Fernando being able to do that at the top of the key. So I don't know where he fits into the Celtics' plans. I don't know where he's going to end up as far as, is he going to stick around? Is he going to be part of a trade? I don't know. But a couple of impressive performances, or a couple of impressive plays here. A decent performance in 15 minutes. Got to shout out Bruno Fernando. Now, one of those assists went to Romeo Langford for a vicious, just doesn't matter that it's summer league. Oh my God, what a poster dunk he had. Like, that was sick. It was kind of a so-so game for Romeo Langford. That dunk came off a cut, a slash into space. Romeo much better in that scenario. They asked him to play a lot more point guard in this game. I just don't think he looks comfortable as a point guard. He shows some good instincts. He shows some flashes of ability. I look at him out there with the ball in his hands as a point guard, and he just looks uncomfortable. I think Romeo looks a little uncomfortable in general. And that's not great. Now, I'm not saying that that's a problem yet. I'm not saying that that's a bad sign, but it's not the best sign, because you can look uncomfortable in summer league, take that film, work on that, and then go back and learn from that and be better. Like, that's not the end of it. Like, oh, he doesn't look great in summer league. Like, don't go crazy about that. Now, but I would like to see Romeo look better. I'd like to see him more comfortable. And I'm not saying I don't want to make any determinations because it's 2 summer league games. So I'm just going to table it. I'm not going to finish that thought. All I'm going to say is he's had some good moments. He's had some so-so moments. He's had a couple of bad moments. I would like to see, for my own personal edification, some more good moments so I can sit there and think like, okay, I feel a lot better about Romeo Langford producing more. But let's let it happen. Let's let the rest of summer league play out. It's been a wild couple of years for Romeo. I shouldn't expect too much from summer league. So let's hope that it just gets a little bit better. Again, my best Romeo is he's been okay. He's been okay. He's had some bad, some good. It's been okay. His second half in the first game was pretty good. But I'm not wowed by it. Aaron Nesmith wowed me in this game. Romeo has not wowed us yet. I'll be honest with you, that's not the best analysis because wowing us is not the what's going to get us to Romeo being productive. But we'll move on. Much more Romeo talk coming up as the week progresses. Last guy I got to bring up, Yam Madar, who was mostly invisible in this game. 16 minutes, 0 of 3, did not score, 1 assist, had a couple of turnovers, just an off game, an off night for him. Just like I didn't want to overreact to a pretty decent game 1. I'm not going to overreact to a kind of bad game 2. I think I'm in the same place with Yam Madar. There's some good stuff. There's some bad stuff. He picked up full court again and is a pest, but also, I asked Joe Mazzulla about that. I asked him, what was it about Yam Madar's defense? And said, look, basically what he said was, Yam has tremendous ball pressure, but he's got to be solid defensively, which goes back to what I was saying in the first one. Fundamentally, he has some issues, and part of it, to be fair to him, and as Joe Mazzulla brought up, it's hard to ask a guy to pick up 94 feet and stay completely in front of a guy the whole time. Now, you do have to be solid, which means you can't reach. You can't put yourself in a position where your body's going one way, that you're leaning one way, and the guy's going to go the other, because now you've got to switch. And you saw in the first game a few times, picking up full court, guy gets by him and he's calling, he's doing that. Okay, got to switch. I'm going to pick up somebody else now. Can't do that. You can pick up full court and give pressure, but don't be going for the reach. Don't be going for the, whatever. You'll get a couple of highlight plays out of it. If you do it 15 times, you'll get 1 poke away, maybe 2. You put that on a mixtape and you'll be like, wow, this dude's just poking the ball away all the time. But 10, 12, 13 times, that guy, now all of a sudden you're playing 5-on-4 and you got to get back on defense. So as Joe Mazzulla said, Yam's got to be solid defensively. Once he's solid and disciplined, he can be a pretty good on-ball defender. When he plays within himself, he's really good. So what was this performance in this game? Maybe he was trying to do too much. So let's not overreact. We'll go to the next game. We're going to talk about the entire body of work this summer. Still doesn't convince me that the Celtics need to bring him over right now. Still doesn't convince me that starting that clock a year sooner is the way to go with his career, with the Celtics on a business side. Nothing he's done has convinced me to say, we need Yam Madar right now. Be patient. Let him. If this is how Summer League goes, and I'm not making this determination just yet, but if this is how Summer League goes for him, and he's just kind of up and down and decent, good, shows us good things, shows us bad things, then great. You've got a ton of film. You've got notes. You send him back to Israel and say, when you go back to Israel in that league, here's your notes. Here's everything you need to do. This is what we're going to be watching for. We're going to watch this game film. We're going to send you your updates. This is what we want you to do. Next summer, come back, boom. Then next summer, he could be your point guard of the future, potentially. But as of right now, no final determinations made. Still not convinced that he's entirely ready. Nothing wrong with not being entirely ready. Okay, he's a young kid. Let him go. And hey, if it works in the Celtics' best interest, if it works in his best interest to go and have one more year working on stuff overseas, then great. But who knows? Still plenty of time in Summer League. Pritchard might be done. Like, I don't think Pritchard should play much more. Maybe one more game. Give him the next game off. Maybe you start Yam Madar in the next game and he wows us and then I change my mind. That's entirely possible. Right now is a status report as I'm progressing in my evaluation of Yam Madar. Still not convinced that he absolutely has to come over right now. So that's where we'll stand. We'll see what happens. Up next, Dennis Schroeder in Boston. Unbelievable. Dennis Schroeder coming to Boston on the taxpayer mid-level. Yeesh, what a deal. That's next. First, let me tell you about Headspace. And let me tell you, if you were looking for some sort of pocket-sized guide that help you sleep better, focus better, act better, Headspace can do it. And all you need is about 10 minutes. It's your daily dose of mindfulness, comes in the form of guided meditations in an easy to use app. It's really one of the only meditation apps that's advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research. So whatever your situation, Headspace really can help you feel better. If you're overwhelmed, there's a 3-minute SOS. If you need help falling asleep, this is something that I need. Headspace has a wind down session, and the members swear by this. This is something that I've used where on a night like tonight, Tuesday night, I'm recording my Wednesday shows. I do Locked On NBA. I do Locked On Celtics. I have writing to do for Boston Sports Journal. I have 2 pieces that I have to write. By the time I'm done, it's 2, 3 in the morning on a night like this. And I go to bed all wound up. I'm at my most amped part of the day. So this wind down session is something that can help you just get into that right space, headspace as it were, and relax, calm down, get myself ready to go to sleep, and get the amount of sleep that I need. Headspace is backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, 600,000 5-star reviews, over 60 million downloads. So go to headspace.com/lockedonnba. That's headspace.com/lockedonnba. You'll get a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. It's the best deal being offered right now. Head to headspace.com/lockedonnba. Now, after you've cleared your mind, you can go ahead and fill your stomach at built.com. Get yourself some Built bars. They come in a ton of delicious flavors. If you missed the rocky road, then you missed it. They go and give you some very delicious limited time flavors. And if you go to built.com and it's not there anymore, it's because they've sold out. That happens more often than you believe because they're just always experimenting with great new flavors. And all of them are going to be somewhere around 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, 4 or 5 grams of sugar, 4 or 5 net carbs. So tasty, healthy. If you're on a keto diet, it works. If you got a nut allergy, they've got options for you. No problem. Built Bar is the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. So go check it out at built.com. Get one of their mix boxes. You get 2 of every flavor, and then you can pick them out. Use the promo code LOCK15 every time you go order. You get that mix box. You like 2, 3 flavors, stock up on those specific flavors. Use that promo code again, LOCK15. You're going to get it 15% off every time at built.com. Dennis Schroeder is a member of the Boston Celtics. A 1-year, $5.9 million taxpayer mid-level deal. What a coup for Brad Stevens. What a win for Brad Stevens. This goes beyond what I was talking about in yesterday's show. That at the $9.5 million mid-level, I would have been like, okay, that's fine. Hard capping yourself for this is questionable, but doable. But this at the 5.9 million, it's a really low risk situation. So you've got a player who's worth probably more than 5.9, that if he can get back to some of the things that he was doing before, especially with his shooting, then he can be very valuable. So you get this guy on a 1-year deal that won't even put you over the luxury tax if you can clear some other space. It will put them over the luxury tax to start with, but they can clear some space. They can trade Chris Dunn, and he's redundant at this point. So you can move off of him and play Schroeder, Smart, Payton Pritchard, and be fine at the point guard spot. If he's terrible, if he's toxic, if he's anything that's a worst case scenario, you can cut him. Be like, all right, forget it. Cut him. Doesn't matter. You move on. He signs somewhere else. It's your problem now. If he's the absolute best case scenario, the third leading scorer on the team, he is carrying you to a deep playoff run. If the fit is absolutely perfect and the Celtics absolutely need to keep him, well, I mean, it does make it difficult because all they can offer him with non-bird rights is a raise that gets him about $7 million. But if he's willing to play that, if all of a sudden if his market is just depressed and he's not going to be any more than that out there, and he just figures, hey, I'll stay and win in Boston or try to win in Boston, the cap hold on that is only going to be like $7 million. The Celtics can actually move some other pieces around. If that works, they can still keep that maximum cap space flexibility to sign that third star. And maybe you say, hey, look, we're keeping Schroeder. We're keeping Tatum and Brown. You get that third star, and now that's your core. If the fit is so perfect that you have to do that, you can do that. It doesn't present other challenges, but you can do that. You can figure that out. Most likely, I think he'll be good. And I think if the Celtics can get value out of him at the trade deadline, then great. If they get Schroeder and at 15 points a game, he's a nice player. He's a good player. Some team out west, some contending team out west, the LA Clippers maybe needs somebody to hold things down. They're going to try to make a run, and Kawhi's not back. The Denver Nuggets, if Jamal Murray doesn't get fully healthy, if that continues to be a problem, one of these other teams that has something to give up that needs that help, the Celtics can move them and get assets back. This is just a no-brainer signing that is completely meaningless. You don't expect him to come back next year. You hold out a plan just in case you want to keep him, but most likely he's going to be gone after this year anyway. Then you can get assets for him. And I saw some people on Twitter say, well, what kind of message would that send to Tatum and Brown if you are playing well and say you're the fourth seed and he's playing well, and at the trade deadline you sell him off? What message does that send to them? And I understand that. It can be deflating to them if you trade away Schroeder and it becomes, this is a guy that he's our sixth man, or maybe he's their starter and whatever. You still can tell Tatum and Brown, say, look, we're trying to build something for next season. And we're not saying we're giving up on this season. We're just saying we're going to go with more Marcus Smart or more Payton Pritchard or whatever. We're going to give one of these other guys more opportunity. It's not the worst thing in the world. I know it can be deflating, but if they're on board, if Ime's on board with it, if he sells it to them, say, look, just a few months, you guys can do your thing. Trust us. This is the plan. This is how it's going to go. You can acquire the draft picks that you need if you're going to pull some sort of sign and trade. If you want to operate over the cap and you make a deal with, I don't think it would be a sign and trade. It'd be tough, but it could be. But if you pull some sort of sign and trade and you get Bradley Beal, let's say, or Zach LaVine, let's start throwing new names in there. If you want to pull that, the picks that you get for Dennis Schroeder could be the added picks that get you to that place. Or maybe at the deadline, Schroeder's playing well enough where the team that he gets, that's offering up that big star can be like, hey, we'll take Schroeder and we'll try to re-sign him, and we'll do a package around Schroeder and some of these young picks or young players and some of your draft picks or whatever. Who knows? But having Schroeder at that money is so just it's perfectly set up for Brad Stevens to do that. It's a fantastic move for Stevens to do. It's I think a move that I don't want to say can't fail, because I suppose there's something that could work out here that doesn't pan out for the Celtics, but I'm trying to think of the worst case scenario that derails anything, and I can't because of the money. They didn't hard cap themselves, so they can still do other moves. If a sign and trade or if a trade for a star shows up, they can still do that. They haven't hurt themselves that way. If he's a cancer in the locker room for some reason, then you can cut him. It's just, it makes sense. So I'm hoping that he plays well. The Celtics can flip him for something at the trade deadline, get some assets for him, and then use those assets to get to that next spot that the Celtics are trying to get to with their next star. Or, hey, filler that can help build a roster, maybe two-way players. Maybe those guys turn into two-way players that become somebody that earns a contract. You just never know when you've got those picks, whatever those assets are. And the good thing is, the last point I'm going to make here is, at $5.9 million, it's easy to match with a smaller salary, a young player salary, a rookie scale salary that maybe a guy needs a change of scenery, or a veteran salary. You can tack something onto Schroeder's money to get to a $9-10 million salary. It's easy to kind of work with that salary. And if the talent, if the production really outpaces what he's being paid, then a team can give up, knowing that he might be a rental. You can give up a piece and say, we know we're going to get this production. We're really making a run. We're going to buy into this rental right now because we believe that we're right there and this guy's going to help put us over the top. Then that could be something that just works out in the Celtics' favor. So congratulations to Brad Stevens. I thought that's a right place, right time to take advantage of a great situation for the Celtics, a bad situation for Schroeder, who, passed up 80 plus million reportedly to get to Boston, but well, not to get to Boston, to ultimately end up in Boston is the better way to put it. Up next, I'm going to talk about Marcus Smart and what Ime Udoka said about Marcus Smart. After I tell you about BetOnline, which is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. You want to bet on Summer League basketball? Go for it. No judgment here. You want to bet on the WNBA when they're back? International sports is all there at BetOnline. So head on over. You can create your username, your profile, your whole thing. Make sure you use that promo code Locked On when you do, because then you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So you've created your whole profile. You put in $100. You get a $50 welcome bonus with the promo code Locked On. That's how the 50% welcome bonus goes on your first deposit. So don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get into the game with BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Please gamble responsibly. Ime Udoka spoke at Summer League during the game, halftime, where he held a little impromptu kind of media session, said a couple of interesting things. The first thing that was interesting to me was that he says he intends to put the ball in Marcus Smart's hands a bit more. It says, quote, he kind of asked for that, and I think he'll be a great facilitator as well. Here's my one. I'm going to carry over the Schroeder thing into this. Here's my one problem with the Schroeder signing is how is that going to impact Marcus Smart? I want Marcus Smart to be the starting point guard. I know a lot of you have been like, no, but I still believe that the best use of Marcus Smart is as the starting point guard. I still think that he can be really, really good in that role. So I'm hoping that Schroeder accepts a 6-man role, which I think would be somewhat actually easier to convince him to take that, because you get to be more of the guy as with the ball in your hands. You come in off the bench, Tatum and Brown sit down. We'll give you the opportunity without Tatum and Brown on the floor as the 6th man to come out, and we'll run lineups with you and the bench units. Like, you are the guy. So you'll have plenty of opportunity on the floor to run that second unit. Now, if he takes that, then that solves my Marcus Smart thing, because I'd rather have Marcus Smart as the starting point guard. If Udoka is to be taken at his word, which I don't see why not, says I think he'll be great as a facilitator. I think that Smart has shown that he can be really good as a facilitator. I think that that's something that the Celtics can roll with out there. I think it helps control some of the Marcus Smart tendencies more. I've said this a bunch in these podcasts. Marcus Smart as the starting point guard kind of keeps in check some of the Marcus Smart deficiencies, some of which are, the shooting, especially. If you start him as the shooting guard, then he's going to take a whole lot more shots. And that's not something that I want. I don't want Marcus Smart coming down and catching the ball to initiate the offense. I want Marcus Smart coming down with the ball in his hand and giving the ball up as the start of the offense. Because once he gives the ball up, then he has to move, and then he has to replace, and so on and so on. And then he gets the ball. Okay, by that time, when he gets the ball, the defense will have rotated theoretically. He will have probably been in a better position to catch and shoot in that situation, rather than come down, catch the ball, one pass and shoot. Like, that's something that I just want. I want Marcus Smart's passing. I want his basketball IQ, and I want Marcus Smart's ability to, or I want Marcus Smart's tendency to shoot to be kind of kept in check. I think it all happens with him as a starting point guard. So Udoka saying that almost feels like code. Yes, let's keep Marcus Smart as the facilitator, as the starting point guard. That's what we want him. Let's get that facilitator. Let's keep saying Marcus Smart as facilitator. Let's really hammer that point home. That's what we want, right? Over and over and over again. Smart the passer, Smart the passer, Smart the passer. That's what we want. Not Smart the shooter. I'm with you on that. Catch and shoot opportunities, clean looks, sure. Let him fly. 3-pointers, I don't care that he's shooting 3-pointers, but the right 3-pointers, right? So if they start Schroeder and Marcus Smart's the 2, then we're going to have problems, and then we're not going to get anywhere. So here's what I hope. I hope that Schroeder takes that 6-man role, Smart's the starting point guard, and I hope Udoka is being honest when he says that. Now, he also says that he wants Tatum and Brown to be playmakers. And the quote here is, we want to play more team basketball. Obviously, have a defensive mindset, do a lot of different things, because we can go big, small, in a lot of different ways there. So, yeah, they're going to rely on Tatum and Brown to use their playmaking ability, to use their scoring ability to enhance that playmaking ability. I don't want those guys to be too much. I want them to be what they are, scorers mostly, but then, yes, drive and kick, find that next level, manipulate the defense, make sure that you're, when you see certain things, set things up so, if you do A, B, C, that the defense is going to react, and then you can set people up. Like, that's the type of playmaking that we want out of them. So I think that the Celtics are set up to do that. I think as long as Schroeder is the sixth man. Now, Udoka did say that he worked with Jayson Tatum afar at the Olympics and says that he dropped some gems here and there, that he didn't want to be Tatum's coach the whole time, but, drop some gems here and there about how he wants Tatum to play. I think it's a really good thing. Obviously, I don't need to go too in depth with Udoka, with Jayson Tatum. They had that opportunity to work together. They built that bond, as Udoka said, and it's great to see that they were able to build that bond. That's a very important first step for Udoka and Jayson Tatum. And then finally, on Josh Richardson, Udoka says he didn't shoot as well the last few years, but we're going to get him back to that. He's a better shooter than he showed in Dallas. Let's hope. I think that is right. He's a better shooter than he showed in Dallas. How much better? Is he the shooter that he was in Miami? Is it somewhere in between? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But for now, I think the Celtics have a plan, and we'll see. He says we'll get him there. We'll get him back to what he was. So, again, an impromptu news conference from Ime Udoka. More on that, I'm sure, as the week progresses. Much more on the Summer League. More from Dennis Schroeder. I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity to talk to Schroeder at some point whenever he gets introduced. Whenever that is, I will bring that to you here because I like to share those kinds of things. And, of course, anything relevant to Summer League, I'll talk about that. So make sure you're subscribed Monday through Friday. This show has been a Monday through Friday podcast since day one. And so we're going to keep on going with it, and make sure you're subscribed. So whether you listen to it on the podcast or whether you're watching on YouTube, I love the fact that you're watching on YouTube. That channel is growing a lot. Thank you so much for the people who are watching, subscribing, all of that. Leave your comments below. Let's argue about things. A lot of people want to argue about things. Fine, let's do it. But more than anything, share the podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody, tell perfect strangers. Who cares? Tell everybody that they should be listening to the Locked On Celtics podcast and watching the podcast on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network.